Good morning. I'd like to call to order the New York City Transit Committee meeting. Let's get started with our safety announcements, please.
Your safety is of the foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen and adhere to the following instructions. If you witness an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and call 911 immediately. Please follow any audible instructions provided through the public address system or visually on screens in the event of an emergency. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell B down the hallway past the elevators. If you have a mobility disability or cannot self-evacuate, please proceed to stairwell D or E for assistance by MTA staff or emergency personnel. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. If you need assistance during an evacuation, please tell an MTA staff member or emergency personnel. Thank you and have a safe day.
Thank you. Let's move on to our public speakers.
Good morning. We have 14 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. The first speaker will be Murray Bowden, followed by Michael Ring.
Morning. I'm not used to speaking from a wheelchair, but I'm getting used to it because I know for the rest of my life that anytime I have to go any distance, it's going to be in a wheelchair. And I'm discovering, since I still can walk a little bit, how many places forget to tell you that the wheelchair wrench is around the corner. And so I get somebody to carry these up the stairs for me. I'm concerned about safety and how the environment will be left for my grandchildren. And what's exciting is not only on this board, but many of the boards I go to, the new members are younger and they think differently. They think flexibly. My generation is locked into, well, we've always done it this way and it's worked for 100 years, why should we change it? Well, we change it because we have things like cell phone, camera, TikTok. Information is distributed these days much differently than it was in the past. It was written before, now it's all online. War is waged not with tanks and rocket planes, but with computers. And the generation that was making money from manufacturing tanks and planes and airplanes doesn't understand that the war is being fought on a computer basis. I want to thank all of the people who have helped me today, my first day here. There are many, many people who took the time to work out some of the problems I had. The one problem that you can work on is in transportation, and the lines on a road were written for a generation of 50 years ago. What it does is slow up your buses. Yes, I hear it. I may not be here again, so I will take another 10 seconds. In order to safely drive your buses, the lines on the left should always be yellow on the right.
Please conclude your remarks.
Yes, I heard you. After 20-odd years, I'm going to take an extra 5 minutes, whether you like it or not. Safety counts. Those computers need to see yellow on the left, white on the right. I can't do it. Each of you, when you stop at a traffic light...
Sir, please conclude your remarks.
Go ahead, have me arrested again. I'm doing this under the direction of a New York City judge who the last time you arrested me said, Mr. Bowden, continue to do exactly what you're doing. And this is exactly what I did then. You need to make it consistent.
Thank you for your
Basic-
remarks. Our next speaker will be Michael Ring, followed by Charlton D'Souza.
Hiya. Before I speak, I'll give a short visual description for people who might need it. I'm just a white guy with dark hair, and I probably need a shave. And I'm wearing a shirt that says Disabled in Action, the organization I happen to be representing today. I just want to share an experience that everyone else in this room had today that we all take for granted. We all walked into this building, and we all took the elevator up. And I talked to the elevator operator. There's a dozen passenger elevators in this building, plus a couple of freight elevators, I assume. Everyone can take it for granted that you could get to work in this building because you know the elevators are going to work. One or two of them might be out of order, and there's enough to go around. The goal of you guys should be to make it so that in the subway, everyone has the same experience. If stairs are an impediment to someone who wants to get to work, in the subway, well, it's not a brand new office building, but to get to somewhere, you're going to have to take 4 or 5 elevators to get anywhere. You need one to get from the street to the mezzanine, and then another one to get to the platform. You might have to change trains, and then you need 2 more to get out. That's 5 trips. And then 5 on the way home. That's 10 trips a day. And then think of it also, you want to do that 5 days a week, that's 50 trips. When you say that they work 98% of the time or 95% of the time, it's a little confusing. How often do they work? You never know if you're going to get anywhere. You can't count on the elevators to get you to work. So people that see a staircase as an impediment are not going to work in New York City. They're not paying their taxes. They're living isolated, unproductive lives. So the goal isn't to get just 95% elevators within the next 30 years. Let's get them working, and let's give the confidence to people who need them that they're going to work. Otherwise, they might as well not be there at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is going to be Charlton D'Souza, followed by Jose Negron.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlton D'Souza. I'm the president of Passengers United. And I want to talk about the service disruptions on the E as in egg train, F as in fish train, R as in Romeo, and M as in Mary. So the Queens Boulevard line has the newest signals, and so does the 7 train. But I've noticed we've been having network communication issues with the new system where everything is breaking down. And I understand you guys also want to do track work now between 179th Street and Continental for the new signals. Plus, there's going to be track work going on at Roosevelt Island, which is going to severely disrupt late night, overnight, and late evening service. What I would suggest is that there should be LIRR cross honoring, and you need more Q60 buses running down the boulevard. You need Arctics running on the Q60. You guys cannot do this to us. You guys are killing Queens with these service disruptions. It's gotten out of control. Even the planned work. You guys don't tell us when the track gangs are on the tracks, and sometimes trains are being held up for 15, 20 minutes at night. This is no way to run a subway system. So either you have more buses running down the boulevard, you can have Arctics running, or you have the railroad cross honoring. Otherwise, this is going to devastate Queens, and especially with the Roosevelt Island community. They're cut off to everything. So you need to work out an agreement with the RIOC operating authority, either to add more shuttle buses exclusively to Roosevelt Island so they can navigate this. And in terms of, just the MTA employee who got assaulted at 2nd Avenue, I was just devastated to hear about that. Our frontline employees, they're all getting assaulted, they're getting beaten up. It's devastating. It should not be happening. So thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. Our next speaker is Jose Negron, followed by Yuki Endo.
Hello? Oh, hi. Yeah, I have a concern. Like the first guy said about the internet and this new generation, they're making, they're bullying kids, making these kids do subway surfing. I had a suggestion and I actually emailed you guys, but nobody ever gets back to me. I was thinking maybe you guys, if it's plausible in the future, to put 2 to 3 inch spikes like they do for birds in private homes or in other places. If they put spikes on top of the train cars, maybe this will stop the kids or anybody going up there because they're gonna have something going in their foot. They're gonna end up going to the hospital. You can make it retractable. I don't know. You guys are the creators here. Something that like a switch that could make them go up or down. The conductor could do it before he goes for each. I don't know if that's plausible, but something's got to be done because I have a teenage child also, and I could only imagine the deaths that has devastated so many families. So again, I emailed you guys about this suggestion. I know it's probably going to be pricey, but it's just something that maybe to curb some of these deaths. Just remember the spikes, maybe 2 to 3 inches. I don't know. You guys can make them detachable because I don't know if they do work on top. Just you guys got to brainstorm on something. I'm just suggesting this for anybody who has children would understand. And that's pretty much it. I emailed you guys and I never got a response. My email is incrediblejose7@gmail.com. Maybe you guys will get back to me. Let me know what you guys thought about my suggestion. That's pretty much it.
Speaker is Yuki Endo, followed by Jesse Figueroa. Yuki Endo's testimony will be read.
Good morning. My name is Yuki Endo, and I'm with Passenger United. On September 16, 2023, there will be a Vegan Day Festival at Randall's Island, and we will need the X80 bus service to and from the event because the M35 bus gets dangerously overcrowded, and sometimes people going back to Manhattan get stranded for 2 to 4 hours, which shown on video on last year, link provided. For Long Island Railroad, I am not happy with the Brooklyn shuttle. During the rush hours, 3 to 4 trains on the branches need to serve Atlantic Terminal and restore time connection at Jamaica. Mineola needs branches because lean seats are not good, and during the main line shutdown in Nassau, we need shuttle buses between Floral Park and Hicksville. For buses, both Brooklyn and Queens bus redesign, please leave B2, B6, 15, 17, 34, 26, 35 limited, B36, 38 limited, 47, 48, 49 limited, B61, 62, 68, 69, 100, BM1 through 5, Q22, Q23, Q31, Q35, Q41, 48, 53, Select Bus, Q100 through 103, Q110 to 114, QN1 to 35, Express Bus 27, 28, 37, 38, buses alone. I am grateful New York Assembly and Senate agreed to pass Fix the MTA package to freeze fair and free bus service in New York City and hope Governor Hochul signs bill. I do not support the congested pricing because many of my vegan friends also rely on cars along with public transit. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Jesse Figueroa, followed by Alita Dupree.
Once again, may I please have 4 minutes, if it's not a problem? Thank you. My topics for today, there's been there's been constant subway surfing, and one youngster went on News 12 The Bronx and exposed his own fate, and he's saying that he was involved in the train surfing that's been going on since December, and the recent one that happened this past Friday in Long Island City. I'm very upset about that. He just exposed his own fate. That needs to stop because people are doing that stuff on social media. I'm the one who made the last report. The previous meeting when the kid was mangled to death, I made the report. So please monitor that stuff and please do action and other things. There's still trash on some buses in the city, not just in Manhattan and the Bronx and other boroughs too. And then the recent 12-9s in other places has gone out of control. I'm getting fed up, and many people are too. There's also homeless people are being forced into shelter during the winter. It's not right because it's cold outside. Then also there's been elevator problems and escalator problems, and let's say Broadway Junction, and things like that. And it's still dirty. Some elevators are dirty. And one last thing, we need to put fences with razor wires, like in the Williamsburg Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge, because there's already one where Howard Beach is, and that should be like on those subway lines and all that. And that's about it. That's all the time I got. Thanks. That was.
Our next speaker will be Alita Dupree, followed by Jean Ryan.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair. Alita Dupree, for the record. My pronouns are she and her. And talk about transit today. Don't know if I mentioned this before, but I got to hear Rich Davey speak on a podcast called Transit Unplugged. It's very helpful and enlightening information. So I would encourage anybody to listen to that. And hopefully I'll get to see y'all in person soon. The ADA work, of course, must continue. And I hope that we will make 2023 the year of greatest progress in adding more elevators to our stations, because sometimes I'm just having a hard time and I need a little help. And some people can't climb stairs, so we don't ever want to forget about that. And I try to bring you positive energy. And how can we build a subway that runs on renewable energy? I think we should have a pie chart that shows the fuel mix of the electricity that the subway uses, so the public can be informed. Maybe that's something I need to do a public records request on, because I want our subway to have a greater sense of positive energy through renewable energy. And Omni is essential. And I look forward to using Omni for reduced fare. And I haven't heard about a sunset date for the paper Metro cards. It's time to move past paper tickets. BART, which is a transportation system in the San Francisco Bay Area, has pretty much moved away from that. So we want to try and move into new things. Because I believe that this subway is not just a system that's steeped in history and tradition, but is relevant to the future and lives up to the ideals of being legendary and stately. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jean Ryan, followed by David Kupferberg.
Hi. I don't know if any of you have taken the express bus lately, but I did a few weeks ago on March 9th. And this is how I had to get off by the fire department of New York. And it's not the first time. It's either the road crew has to come after I wait an hour or more, or the fire department has to come. And if I can't get on the express bus, it's not my fault. The lifts don't work. If I can't get on, then I have to just be left at the curb and wait for the next bus and hope that I can get on that one. How can you get to anything on time if you never know if you're going to be able to get on the bus or off the bus? I checked today, and I've been working on this issue on and off since 2000. That's 23 years that I've been working on this. And there's no change because the MTA buys buses that with lifts that are so complicated that the drivers can't remember the sequence to use the lift. We have to train them if we know. But you get on the bus, you don't know how to use a lift. I do because I had to get trained at the depot because I could see if I didn't get trained, I was never going to get on the bus. So I think you really need to look at the lifts, simplify them, figure out how to make them more simple, tell the manufacturer they have to be more simple, or get a different model of bus. I know buses are in service for a really long time, but this really should not be going on. They're not ADA compliant. Thank you.
Our next speaker is David Kupferberg, followed by Yolanda Ayani.
Thank you. The MTA claims that in the Bronx, post-bus network redesign implementation, average bus speed has increased by 2%. But what about passenger travel time? We at Passengers United infer that based on the fact that New York City Department of Transportation eliminated over 400 stops, then had to restore a significant amount of those stops, there was no change in passenger travel time. It seems to prove that the Bronx bus network redesign failed to significantly increase mobility within the borough and also failed to make the NYC city limits less of a barrier between neighborhoods. If the Brooklyn bus network redesign draft plan was a good plan, some Brooklyn community boards would support it. According to a recent article published in Brookliner.com, none of the 18 community boards do. In fact, Brooklyn Community Board 16 was initially on the fence as to their support. I convinced them to take a second look. Now they are against it. Though each and every community board has concerns, they all found faults in the draft plan. For example, in southern Brooklyn, the B49, B68 switch would make access within the area less convenient, as that more people would be forced to transfer. West End Avenue service is also proposed to be eliminated. But there are better ideas out there. If the MTA could spend money on customer service centers, it could spend money on implementing all the ideas that we at Passengers United have proposed in the Bronx and Brooklyn. To the MTA and their service planners, you should revise the Brooklyn bus network redesign draft plan to expand service, not shift it around. The cost-neutral approach creates more losers than winners. Go back to the drawing board.
Our next speaker is Yolanda Ayani, followed by Jason Anthony.
The most disrespected people in New York City transit history are accessorized users because they're voiceless, because they're seniors and disabled people. And everything I've heard today is that Long Island Railroad had a fix, and they got it fixed with the problem with the, February 27th. If the subway needs something to be fixed, it's going to be temporary, and there's a fix. For years, Stressor Ride, as is known on the street, users have been complaining, but no one plans to do anything about it. All we hear is, we gonna do, but nothing happened. None of you guys can say you have the same experience as Stressor Ride riders have. You get to your appointment late, you don't get picked up, or you have to wait 3 to 4 hours. All this is totally unnecessary. Subway riders, as soon as there's something wrong with a subway, they try some way to fix it. Why can't we get the same decency and respect? It's really, and one of the fix, if you use e-hail and the carrier is not very well, go to another carrier. Why can't it be fixed? Make everybody accountable for what they do. Even when I hear procurement contracts here, they get it fixed because they're not doing the job. Why can't Stressor Ride users get the same thing? It's very stressful and disgusting that disabled and senior citizens have to go through this nonsense when subways and bus riders don't get the same, be discriminated like we are. Enough is enough. I've been here quite some time speaking about this, and there is no one been able to get it fixed. Get it fixed. Do we have to go to the media like the Long Island Railroad people? Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Jason Anthony, followed by Lisa Daglian.
Good morning, Rich. Good morning, Haida. Here, Jason Anthony, within my third week of returning to school. Yet again, I have to witness subway surfing, this time on the Queens Boulevard line. What we have to do to stop this nonsense? Within the first week of me returning to school, we have to see cynical brats jumping behind our train while I was in class. Look at this. And then they post the pictures on Instagram. And then I get the evidence on my phone. And then they post the videos on TikTok. And then late last week, we found out that a teenager was struck by a train on Hunters Point Avenue along the 7. A subway line that nowadays I have to use 4 times a week to get to school. My suggestion is we have to get along, Rich, with Yandis Rodriguez to put bone wires at the Williamsburg Bridge and near Hunters Point Avenue. Because this is one of several points that these people are using.
Please conclude your remarks.
I will do so shortly, Morgan. We have to put a stop to this ASAP. So
Please conclude your remarks.
I will do so, Morgan. I will see you guys later on.
Thank you. Our next speaker, our final speaker, will be Lisa Daglian.
Almost afternoon. Lisa Daglian, Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. Though it's a little late, I'd like to recognize our heroes on wheels. March 18th is Transit Driver Appreciation Day, an annual event to celebrate public transit vehicle operators. Speaking on behalf of the New York City Transit Riders Council, we think every day should be Transit Driver, Transit Operator Appreciation Day. Thank you for your service. We're glad to see increasing ridership on subways and buses. It's a trend we hope continues as more people go about getting to their business and pleasure by transit. Safe, clean, reliable, and frequent service will keep bringing New Yorkers back on board and encourage our neighbors and visitors to venture back as well. Keeping riders safe, as the numbers bear out, will hopefully continue the virtuous cycle of rider return. Increasing service frequency will convince even more people to get back on board. Funded once financial doomsday has been headed off. We know there are heady and heartening negotiations underway in Albany that will affect every rider. We're urging that even as the future of the MTA's financial surety is being discussed, there's also movement to make the ABLE program permanent and expand it to include other violations. Controller DiNapoli pointed out last week that MTA bus speeds are among the lowest of any major transit system nationwide, with average speed system-wide only surpassing 9 miles per hour in 5 months between January 2019 and 23. Recent improvements in bus lane violation enforcement may help improve bus speeds. Your own survey found that improving wait times for buses would increase rider satisfaction, and shorter wait times would encourage people to ride more often. Increasing ticketing of bus lane violations, block bus stops, and double parkers would, well, be just the ticket and enable buses and all traffic to move more quickly. Talking to you, emergency vehicles. Those tickets work. Recidivism is unbelievably low, with only 5% of violators committing more than 2 violations. It would mean we would be able to say, if you're not a bus, stay out of the bus
Please
lane.
conclude your remarks.
And if you're not a bike, stay out of the bike lanes. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment session for today.
Thank you, everyone. I now would like to motion to approve the minutes for the February 2023 meeting. Motion by Lisa, second. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Motion passed. Okay, Rich, thank you. Are there any changes to the work plan?
Yes, the 2022 year-end EEO and diversity report will be presented in April instead of this month.
Okay. Can I have a motion? Thank you, Rich, to approve the 2023 work plan. Motion, second. Moved. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All right, motion carried. Okay, Rich, you want to start us off?
Yeah,
with the
thank you,
president report?
Chair. Appreciate it. So we began this journey together 11 months ago by focusing our efforts on what customers told us, and we are indeed listening. New Yorkers are savvy consumers, no doubt, and New York City Transit has unceasingly listened to and incorporated customer feedback into our current operations. Coming out of COVID, we reset our vision for transit to become a customer-focused system based around faster, cleaner, safer, which is a plan that has a number of new approaches to improve operations, maintenance, and safety, which we'll give a few updates on today. Customers have been along this journey with us side by side, sharing honest feedback in forums like this, our Transit Talk, our Pulse surveys, or just striking up conversations with our customers throughout the system. I'm happy to see that our customers are realizing the fruits of our collective labor, the 47,000 men and women who work in New York City Transit, through all transit modes. Subway satisfaction continues to trend in the right direction. Satisfaction with overall subway experience climbed to a new monthly high in February, with 65% of our customers reporting that they are satisfied or very satisfied, a 13% increase since just last June. The Department of Subways, under Demetrius's leadership, maintained an 85% on-time performance for the second month in a row, a 10-year high. Weekend service showed even more promise in February. Our weekend on-time performance was 84, just a little over 84%, 7 percentage points better than a year ago. And in March, the sustainability of that performance continues. Weekday service, as of this morning, was at a little over 83%, and weekend performance for March was 85.5%. And lastly, we're seeing our customers come back. We set a new post-pandemic ridership record on March 16th, where we were just shy of 4 million subway customers. We also rolled out the first R211s into service in the A line on March 10th, the first new subway car in 5 years. It's part of a 535-car order that this board or this committee certainly participated in. We appreciate that continued support that you're providing us in New York City Transit. 440 cars with state-of-the-art amenities. There'll be 15 Staten Island Railway 5-car trains. And then, as you all know, 2 10-car open gangway features, which we'll be looking at to pilot at the end of the year. All the models include security cameras, accessible seating, better digital lights, better signage, and most importantly, and something I don't think we often talk about, is the mean distance between failures. What cars are they replacing? Well, they're replacing cars that are due for their AARP card. They've been in the system for over almost 50 years old, the R46s. These cars will be 3 times more reliable than the service that we're running today on the ANCs. Yes, but you can't look out the window. But Andrew will provide a special window for you in the front. On our safer pillar, our partnership with the New York City Transit Bureau is showing measurable results as their tours of duty are dedicated to the subway lines, visiting stations in their assigned sectors to combat crime and quality of life issues, while importantly developing relationships with our riders and our people, our employees at New York City Transit. In February, the percentage of customers who felt safe or very safe in our stations was 62%, continuing positive trends since the COPS, Cameras, and Care initiative was rolled out last fall. Customers in particular on the 7, G, L, and Q were 70% or more satisfied with overall subway safety. Automated announcements like notifying customers of our locations of police stations like Union Square are making a difference. And after a successful group of first stations were completed along the D line in the Bronx, New York City Transit expanded the program to stations renovations across Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan. Demetrius will talk about that shortly. New York City is on track to complete 50 stations that were scheduled to receive renovation work in 2023. Our Renovation program embodies our goal of increasing customer satisfaction, bringing new stations that feel new, inspiring neighborhood pride, and making folks' commute more enjoyable. We know that the subway stations are an integral part of what we're doing, and they've also been preparing for our station agents in their new roles. So, Demetrius, I want to ask you to spend a few moments briefing the board on where we are with our training program for our station agents. Demetrius.
Thanks, Rich. So, as part of the new station agent model, where agents are outside of the booth, initially you'll see them in the fare control area, as you've seen customer service locations that we've rolled out. Ultimately, each agent will undergo a 4-day training period before they prepare to roam the station. The training covers items such as customer service basics, technical training, scenario role plays, supporting customers with disabilities and accessibility challenges, de-escalation techniques, and tutorials on some of the applications on their mobile devices. To date, we've trained 173 station agents, 55 managers and supervisors for this new model, and currently we're training 32 agents a week, but we're looking to ramp up and increase to what will be 48 agents per week in mid-April. Upon completion of the 4-day training, agents will also receive a work cell phone, which will have various applications so they can better assist customers and have an agency device that they can use when needed. They will be able to assist with more than just service and delay info, but directions to popular attractions and the many amenities our great city has to offer. We talked a little bit about the distribution of phones along with training, but given the value of providing improved customer service, we're working with IT and the TWU on the logistics of issuing station agents their phones prior to the 4-day training. In this instance, employees would remain within the general proximity of the control area rather than walking the entire station until such time they have received the training. Now, earlier this month, our team held thorough briefings with all station managers about the agents' new roles and what can be expected. The TWU is also an active participant. During these briefings, they discussed how to stay in consistent contact with employees, security awareness, including locations of help points, assisting customers, flagging hidden areas and blind spots, and proper uniforms. Once fully implemented, every station complex will have at least one control area with 24 hours per day, 7 days a week coverage. We will also have 15 customer service centers, which are staffed with 2 agents during the day and 1 on the overnight, and we'll have 9 of them open by the end of this month. That's all I have, Rich. Back to you.
Demetrius, I have a question. Of the 173, how did you pick where you started to train?
So we first started with the agents that would be working at the customer service locations. That was our priority. And then we started looking at major key transfer locations where the ridership is highest. The goal is to be able to have the biggest impact with customers first, so we chose the locations based upon ridership.
Midori.
And Demetrius, how many total station agents do we have in the system?
It's right now around 2,300.
Okay, so it's going to take it's going to take time to do the rollout of the training. And just remind me again, when are we expecting these station agents to be out there, out and about?
So we're still targeting a specific date.
Oh, okay.
Soon to come.
Okay.
But you'll see them at some of the customer service centers already.
I see. Okay.
As one of them will be inside the booth and the second one will be out reading.
That makes sense. You know, you have to test it out and see kind of what works, what operational model works for you all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Demetrius. Any other questions? Great. Go ahead.
Thanks, Dee. So moving on to bus, customer satisfaction has also shows signs of improvement in February 2023. Overall bus customer satisfaction was up to 69%, a 5-point increase since December of 2022. The improvement can be mainly attributed to 4 key indicators that reach 70% or higher, which is our North Star, of course: bus cleanliness, travel times, driver helpfulness, which continue to be among the highest. And kudos to our operators out there who are giving our customers excellent customer service and overall route performance. Service delivered in buses was over 96%, and customer journey time was at about 76%. All boroughs saw an improvement in these indicators compared to February of 2022. And I do want to turn it over to Frank to talk a little bit about our ABLE program, where we continue to move the needle of, as I think Lisa Daglian said, if you're not a bus, get out of my bus lane. I can reinforce that, as can Frank. But Frank, I'll turn it over to you just to give a brief update on the success of the ABLE program.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. So as Rich mentioned, ABLE cameras remain a critical tool to keep bus lanes clear, keep vehicles out of our lanes, and move our buses faster and more reliable. ABLE-enabled routes show an average speed improvement of 5% above borough average and have shown to decrease collisions, hence faster, cleaner, safer. The program to date has resulted in over 220,000 violations across 16 routes covering all 5 boroughs, with 80% of violators committing only one violation. So we have a very successful low recidivism rate. The expansion this year will allow us to cover 80% of our existing bus lanes. So we're excited, and we're looking forward to provide even more exceptional service to our customer. I'll turn it back over to Rich. Thanks.
Andrew, I'm sorry, you have a question.
You're sorry I have a question, or? Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Frank, thank you. I got myself tongue-tied.
That's okay.
Frank, thank you. Sorry I didn't press my microphone. Andrew, you have a question.
Thank you. Frank, I should have noticed this, but are ABLE-equipped bus lanes noted that? Is there signage to indicate that?
Yes, there's signs all throughout the.
How frequently
lanes.
would you say they are?
I think I would say exactly, but every block.
Every block.
Every block, and if otherwise, unless otherwise noted, they're enforced 24 hours. If they're not 24 hours, it will be noted on the sign above the lane.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead. Oh, Sharif, yes.
Just a question for Frank. I just wonder if you can address one of our public speakers, address the express bus accessibility apparatus. And is it a training issue? Is it complex to operate? I just wanted to know. I think, obviously, if it's a widespread issue, I think we should really look into how we can improve it.
Good question,
Well,
Sharif.
certainly the express bus are high floor buses, so they have an actual lift, whereas the local buses have a ramp. But nonetheless, our buses, we have a comprehensive maintenance program that includes a wheelchair service, whereas the bus is brought in and it duplicates service. We actually have a 600-pound weight that goes on the lift also. So we have a comprehensive program. We have a rather high, and I'll report back, reliability rate. Although, yes, it is more complicated than a local bus ramp, nonetheless, our operators are trained, right? And, one thing that we continually do is we re-instruct our operators, re-release bulletins regarding the operation of these lifts, and something that we're committed. I'll take it back to the team. We're going to take another hard look at if there's been any degradation in reliability, and make sure that, we reissue any bulletins. But again, our operators are continually retrained, and, certainly, our goal is 0 failures, that's for sure.
Thank you for your answer, and certainly, of course, it's our shared goal. So if you take it back to the team and come back to the committee, that would be great. Thank you.
Will do.
I'd like to add something, if I may.
Oh, yes.
Commissioner.
Yeah.
All of our buses are ADA compliant, and the service that we deliver is compliant to the letter of the law. Those buses, in particular, have space to accommodate more than one wheelchair, be it electric or manual. But I'll make sure we convene and report back.
Yeah, and one other point I should have made is that we do have a pre- and post-trip inspection on every bus, and part of our pre-trip, if there's among many things, if there's an inoperative wheelchair lift, the bus cannot go out in service. We will not. So.
All right. Thank you, Q. Mazzori. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. So this is a follow-up on that. Maybe it's Q, maybe it's Frank. Can you just remind me about if there is a customer that experiences like a lift issue kind of out there in the world and would like to make a complaint, is that possible? So then you can hear from the customer themselves, oh, this is the bus. Is there any... I remember at some point there was a customer service interface online, so I just wanted to check in if that still exists or if that would be helpful.
Absolutely, just like any other complaint. Well, we do have those with technology. We have Slack that we could get immediate complaints. We do. They can also call the complaint line for us, and every single complaint is reviewed and we'll respond accordingly as such, right? And but then again, naturally, when passengers are on a bus and there is a failure, as such, we do have supervision respond. So the supervisors certainly can take that too.
Great, thank you. And then I just wanted to thank you, Rich. Last month, I had a question about metrics and being able to kind of dive into the metrics. I was able to go to every, I think, committee book has a link and a QR code, and I was able to kind of go in through the metrics. So I might have some follow-up questions on that, but I really appreciate having that full dashboard there, and that's really great. So thank you.
And last but not least, paratransit was actually an exceptional month. High on-time performance, ridership, low no-shows resulted in record-breaking customer satisfaction. The overall satisfaction for Access-a-Ride was 77%, a 15-point increase since last month. Look, as I always say, I can never deny the lived experience of our customers who came today to issue a concern or a question or an issue, and we will track all of those down, no doubt. But I would just say, by any measure, we are faster, we are cleaner, and we are safer in New York City Transit over the last 11 months because of the folks here at this table and the 47,000 people they represent, and also our partners in New York City Transit Police, which we have appreciated their hard work as well. We have a lot of work to do, but closing in on my first year here, I just have to tell you I'm incredibly excited about the months to come. We've been record-breaking so far, but I have no doubt this team will continue to be record-breaking. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other additional questions for Rich? If not, we'll move over to Q for accessibility update.
Thank you so much, Ada.
You're welcome.
I'd like to bring back to this board, and you heard me say it many times before, but my definition of accessibility is quite broad, and I am very intentional about disassociating or decoupling accessibility with disabilities. And I am proud to announce it, in case you missed it, our expansion to our open stroller bus pilot program that we have. And we are expanding from 142 buses from phase 1 to over 1,000 buses in phase 2, which we start this week. That means that we are going from 7 routes, which we had at phase 1 of the pilots citywide, to 57 routes amongst the 5 boroughs, serving over 250,000 customers in those areas. We've been very deliberate about selecting those routes that will hit the largest number of our customers who we see use strollers. And in the first 6 months of the pilot, we serviced over 4,000 parents and caregivers who came through our buses with an open stroller. So I am so thankful to Frank and his entire team in buses who have been agile with me and really honest in conversation with parents, caregivers, our bus operators, our union representatives, and of course, disability advocates who all have been at the table to ensure that this expansion, this redefining of accessibility doesn't come at the expense to our customers with disabilities. I am proud to say that this expansion of our physical access on buses maintains the integrity of the 2 accessible spots and all of our transit buses. And again, thank you, Frank, to you and your team for continuing this conversation and for redefining access and accessibility in our bus systems. I'll turn it over to you for some.
Thank you, Q. So the bus team we're very excited about expanding the buses to more accessibility for New Yorkers. You know, there's so many people out there who rely on us every day, so we want to make sure that we can reach out to all those that we can, help. As mentioned, this was a very collaborative process. I want to thank all our labor partners. They were committed and dedicated. The dedicated operators who actually operate on those pilot routes, pilot 1 routes, but more importantly, the operators who participated in our working groups, right, and collaborated with us, really gave us, good feedback. It was awesome. They were really awesome, and I really appreciate it. I'd be remiss also if I didn't acknowledge Daniel Cardoza, our Vice President of Maintenance, and Kerry Bowden, who leads our new bus procurement group. They really doubled down and really compressed the work and the engineering and planning to roll this out, so that, them and their team really to be acknowledged. The customers and the operators alike reported that it's faster, easier to board, more comfortable bus rides, more positive interaction with the riders overall. And on our pilot routes, we had no reported incidents related to it. So I think, it's so far it's been a really success. And we'll continue to collaborate closely with both our customers and with our labor partners on this, and as we roll out this expansion over the next several months. But thank you.
So as you heard, the second pilot has no end date. And regarding future expansion, we're committed to this phase 2, and we'll continue to monitor and evaluate the pilot as we put stroller open spaces in over 1,000 buses.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Q? Yes, Midori.
So for Frank and Q, how are you measuring success of the pilot? Is it that there are no incidents, or are you surveying caregiver satisfaction or folks who, need additional space in the bus space satisfaction? How do you know it's working?
So the first measure of that success is surveying customers. So we are out there in the field speaking to customers who we see with strollers who are utilizing it. And of course, as Frank mentioned, we are also making sure that there aren't any reports of incidents either from our customers or our drivers who are experiencing this pilot and engaging with our customers out in the field. Anything you would add?
Right, and we're also gathering the feedback from our bus operator
And
daily.
what is the primary feedback you're hearing from bus operators
So
around this?
it was exciting to hear that they were saying it was actually easier, faster boarding, right? And a lot of them said to us, quite frankly, it's about time, right?
That's exciting.
Look, we have the best bus operators in the business. We really do, and they're professionals, and they know how to message it to the passengers, right? And it takes some of that. People get on and being able to manage the customers and let them know how it's important. But yeah, I mean, it was, so far it's been very, very, very positive feedback from all the bus operators involved.
It's amazing. As a board member who uses the stroller day in and day out, this is game changing for people like us and caregivers. So really appreciate that. Thank you.
No, Frank, congratulations, and Q, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Just one quick announcement.
Yes.
I am required to make this announcement here that the MTA and New York City Transit Authority has recently entered into a proposed settlement agreement that would resolve 2 class action lawsuits relating to accessibility of the subways for those with mobility disabilities. If approved by the courts, the MTA will add elevators or ramps to stations subject to the terms and conditions of the settlement agreement, so that by 2055, at least 95% of MTA's inaccessible stations, as defined in the settlement agreement, will provide stair-free paths of travel. The full notice of the proposed settlement of this class action suit, including information about the terms of the settlement agreement and related court hearings, can be found on our websites.
Great, thank you. And we don't have to take an action on that, right? It's just posted on the website? Great, all right, thank you. Congratulations on that too, Q. Any other questions for Q or for Frank? Okay, if not, thank you both, and we'll move on to Deputy Chief Norman Grandstaff for the crime report. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Mahaltzis, President Davey, and other board members. My name is Norman Grandstaff. I'm one of the executive officers of the NYPD's Transit Bureau. Unfortunately, Chief Michael Kemper, the chief of the NYPD's Transit Bureau, had a death in the family and is unable to attend here today, but he sends his regards and asked me to update the board on the month of February. So before you have the crime stats through the month of February. They show the subway system has experienced 315 major felonies compared to 391 the previous year. This is a 19.4 reduction in crime. Historically, when you look at this first 2 months of the year, and when you go back as far as we have for recorded history, we are off to the safest start crime-wise in regards to the first 2 months of the year, with the exception of 2021, which was the height of the corona pandemic. So that fact is really optimistic, and we look forward to extending that. Really, the decrease that we've seen is really driven by a decrease in robberies. We have a 22% decrease in robberies, as well as a decrease of 22% in grand larcenies. Grand larcenies, or non-confrontational property theft, makes up 46%, which is nearly half of the crime that we see in the subway system. A notable portion of those crimes, the grand larcenies, are from sleeping passengers or inattentive riders. With that, just several days we broadcast a public service announcement to inform the ridership of some proven safety tips. Simple steps that a person can take to make themselves a little less vulnerable while riding the subways, especially to an opportunistic thief. On the subject of safety, and it's been mentioned many times today, particularly in the public's comments, we continue to see reckless behavior on the part of our youngest subway riders. In the past week, transit officers have intervened and taken into custody several teenagers observed subway surfing or riding on the outside of train cars. We urge parents and educators alike, or frankly, really anyone who has the ability to capture a teenager's attention. I have 3 teenagers myself, so I know how difficult that is, to discuss this topic before tragedy hits another family in New York City. Thankfully, all the teens from the incidents I mentioned earlier, although we did see a death in February, but all of the incidents I mentioned when the officers were able to remove them from the roof of the subway or in between cars, all those teens walked away unharmed because of the officers' intervention. With that, I thank you for your time today and welcome any questions that you may have.
Great. Thank you. Questions, David, Lisa, Andrew.
Chief, I'm pleased that you started to break out the ethnic breakout of major crimes. I have asked that a similar breakout be done for tab summonses and arrests. I know you have it, I was told, on the site, so it's not a huge lift, but it would be helpful for the board to recognize that, because the trends, at least to me, have been somewhat disturbing. But this is not a criticism of anything you're doing. I just need to know the demographic breakout.
Yeah, so as an agency, the NYPD polices constitutionally and without bias. The results that you're seeking are on the NYPD's public-facing website, and they are produced there.
And I've asked repeatedly that it be part, if you've done this kind of breakout for major crimes, there seems to be no difficulty for you not to bring it here to this board meeting as well. I don't understand the resistance here.
Like I said, that data is produced on our
I
website.
understand that. I'd like it in our presentations here.
Okay. Duly noted, David. We'll take it back. Lisa.
Other than this summons, what kind of consequences are these kids getting when they're caught on the subways? I mean, are we terminating them from being able to ride the subways? Like, what's their consequence?
Those consequences are minimal. I mean, really, juvenile reports are prepared as far as the police department goes. But that's why, part of my opening was we really need to rely on the families to really parent their children. We're there and we have addressed it. It is important to us. We have an officer in Queens who in the last year has, taken over 40 teenagers off the roofs of subway trains. So it is something that we're focusing on. But again, we do need some help from particularly anyone with influence over these kids.
Go ahead, Rich.
Maybe just another comment. I mean, I'm not going to call Pat up, but under Pat Warren's leadership, MTA is also doing its part, right? So Pat and others have been in touch with some of the social media companies. I think that has been a big challenge. I think Jason Anthony mentioned that earlier, just being able to see videos or photographic evidence of glorifying this reckless behavior. And the response has been, as I understand it, Pat, you can nod, pretty good, which has been helpful. And then I think the other one is we're going to work with the schools as well to really get the message out. That this is dangerous, reckless behavior. There was a pretty moving, I think, story just last week with a subway surfer from 10 years ago who lost his sight and has just, really been negatively impacted in his life. And so, those are the stories we need to get out. But with the police, our safety team is also taking steps as well.
One last piece to that.
Yes.
Any possibility of holding the parents accountable?
You're looking at the wrong man.
Yeah.
I am neither a cop nor a judge or a prosecutor or legislator.
It's so, and I'll put it to publicly, right? It's just it seems across the board, there's no consequences to what these young adults are doing. And if there's no consequences, no incentive to stop.
Like I always said, you can't fix stupid, right? It's just, anyway, yes, Sandra.
Thank you to the men and women of the NYPD for everything you're doing for our riders. In cases like we heard fairly recently where it looked like 2 or 3 individuals were targeting people on specific lines, and I think the 7 line comes to mind. I think there was an event at 82nd Street and at 111th Street. Does the NYPD then put additional personnel on lines that they see people are targeting and or undercover officers or uniformed officers to try to alleviate such a surge?
Sure. So, the 19% reduction in crime that we've experienced for the first 2 months of the year, that doesn't happen by accident. That's due to a lot of factors. The hard work of the police officers of New York City, particularly the subway system, our partnership with the MTA, and honestly, a more informed ridership. So, one of our tenets and really how we fight crime is timely intelligence, right? We look at these reports. When we see trends, whether, 2 robberies, larcenies, whatever the case may be, on a certain line, so that triggers a response. And that the way we handle it is, the way we put out these small fires is with deployment, right? So we do deploy to areas where we see crime. That's how we've been successful. Now, part of that deployment is a uniform presence, and additionally, there is a plainclothes component to that as well. So, beyond that, we look at a recidivist, things like that. But to answer your question, it really goes down to accurate, timely intelligence and rapid deployment.
Okay, one quick follow-up. So if you do that, and is the new deployment done to the entire line, hoping that these folks won't go to another section of the same line and do their trade, or do you just assume that they'll move to another line, or that they'll give it up?
Yeah, so displacement is always a concern of ours, and it's something that we see regularly. But again, to answer the question, we focus where the crimes are happening, but then we also maintain a presence on the line, because we know if they're hitting, if criminals are hitting a certain station, or a series of 2 or 3 stations in a row, if they see a strong police presence, they're going to probably go elsewhere. So we want to maintain the reduction along the line as well.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions? If not, thank you. Please give Chief our deepest condolences, and we look forward to seeing you both next month.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're up, Lou.
The New York City Transit procurement package includes one action this month. This action is an authorizing resolution for the approval to use a request for proposal process for the procurement of 4 bus operator simulators. These simulators are computer-based interactive training devices that are used to supplement on-road, on-vehicle training for New York City Transit and MTA bus company operators. Through the purchase of new simulators, the MTA will have the ability to enhance its current training programs while adding more depth and technological advancement. By utilizing the RFP process for the acquisition of bus simulators, New York City Transit will be able to weigh factors such as project price, quality of the proposal and product, including delivery. It gives us the ability to negotiate specific contract terms such as warranty and payment, technical matters, and include any factors that New York City Transit or MTA bus deem relevant. Upon completion of the RFP process, New York City Transit will request board approval for the actual contract award. I submit this request for board approval.
Any questions for Lou? Andrew?
How long would this contract be for?
Not sure yet. We're still researching the marketplace, but it would be an appropriate period for the actual procurement, the actual acquisition, installation, outfitting, and then a maintenance program to ensure that it functions effectively going forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the procurement? Motion. Second, Randy. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carries. Any other business we have? All right. If not, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second. All those in favor? Thank you. Next is corporate governance.